On the night of June 28, 2026, at the Peacock Theater in Los Angeles, a camera caught something the internet would spend the next week trying to decode. Baby Keem, mid-interview, stepping into the frame of Momo Boyd's red carpet segment before the BET Awards had even started. He wrapped his arms around her. She laughed the way people laugh when a moment has caught them off guard, but not unpleasantly. Neither of them said anything that confirmed or denied what the embrace looked like. That ambiguity is the entire story, and it is worth sitting with before reaching for conclusions. To understand why two people hugging on a red carpet became a talking point across music blogs and fan forums, you have to go back 7 months to a song neither of them wrote alone. Baby Keem released Casino on February 20th, 2026, 5 years after his debut studio album, The Melodic Blue. Rolling Out had described the wait as an eternity by the standards of modern hip-hop, a gap long enough to build anticipation and long enough to invite doubt about whether he could still deliver. Buried in the tracklist was Good Flirts, a song built around a female voice that most listeners did not recognize. That voice belonged to Momo Boyd, a 26 or 27-year-old singer from Detroit, raised between Detroit and New York, whose name had circulated in smaller music circles for years, but had never broken into hip-hop's mainstream conversation. Boyd's presence on a Kendrick Lamar and Baby Keem record did not happen by accident, and the mechanics behind it matter more than the romance narrative that followed. According to an interview she gave The Fader, she was personally selected for the track by Dave Free, the co-founder of pgLang, alongside Kendrick Lamar. Turning point, by her account, came when Free attended a Los Angeles performance she gave with her family band and saw something he wanted for the project. That is a very different origin story than the one implied by tabloid framing, which tends to compress "she was recruited by a producer who'd watched her career for years" into "she appeared out of nowhere and got close to Keem." The former is a story about industry relationships built over time. The latter is a story about proximity to fame. Only one of them is documented. Boyd recorded her vocal for Good Flirts while on tour with her family band, Infinity Song, in 2024, and by her own account she was sick with a fever at the time. She told Complex it felt like life or death, that she sent take after take between rehearsals without knowing where the song would land or who else might end up on it. She said she stayed quiet about the opportunity deliberately, not wanting to celebrate something that might not materialize. That detail is a small window into an industry reality, rarely covered in coverage of viral duets. Features like this are frequently recorded blind, an artist trusting that a verse mailed off during illness and exhaustion might someday sit next to one of the most scrutinized rappers alive. It is also a reminder that the moment the public later reads as chemistry and flirtation began from Boyd's side, as isolated, unglamorous labor. Before Good Flirts, Boyd was best known as a member of Infinity Song, a 5-sibling band formed in New York City in 2014 that built a grassroots following through subway performances and pop-up sets in Central Park before Jay-Z's Roc Nation signed them in 2016. She wrote and produced the group's breakout single, Haters Anthem, herself. In 2022, she performed at Carnegie Hall alongside Jon Batiste as part of the world premiere of his composition American Symphony. She released her debut solo single, American Love Song, in 2025, and by the time Good Flirts reached listeners, she had already spent roughly 2 decades of her life inside music, most of it far from the spotlight that would eventually find her. Rolling Stone's review of the song singled her out directly, describing her as stealing the show and comparing her presence on the track to a cool gust of air inside Keem's sonic universe. SCA shared the record on her own platforms. None of that reaction, at the time, carried any romantic subtext. It was industry recognition of a vocal performance, nothing more. And for a few months, that was the entire story. An emerging artist getting her real introduction to a mainstream audience through a well-placed feature. The frame shifted at the BET Awards. Boyd was invited to perform Good Flirts on stage with Keem, alongside 2 of his other songs, Circus Circus Freestyle and Dramatic Girl. That alone was not unusual. Artists who appear on a hit record are frequently brought out for televised performances of it. What drew attention was everything surrounding the performance rather than the performance itself. The press-out interruption on the red carpet, the visible excitement on Keem's face, which multiple outlets described as unmistakable, without offering any further interpretation of what it meant. And afterward, a post from Boyd's own account, a set of photos with Keem captioned, "Some true flirtaholics." That caption is doing a specific kind of work, and it is worth being precise about what it does and does not confirm. It plays with the language of the song itself, "Good Flirts," collapsing the line between performance and reality in a way that generates exactly the kind of ambiguity gossip coverage runs on. It is not a confirmation of a relationship. It is also not a denial. Hot New Hip Hop's own coverage was careful on this point, noting that while they might be playing coy with the nature of their relationship, there is no doubt that they are playing into some of the speculation right now. That is a meaningful distinction. Playing into speculation is not evidence of romance. It can just as easily be evidence of two people enjoying the attention a viral moment brings to both of their careers, at a stage when attention itself is currency neither of them can afford to waste. It is worth pausing on why this particular ambiguity spreads the way it does. Baby Keem's public identity has been built almost entirely around music rather than personal life. He is Hakeem Jamal Carter Jr., born in Carson, California, in October 2000, raised largely by his grandmother in Long Beach and Las Vegas after a childhood marked by an absent father and a mother who struggled with alcohol. He has spoken about his upbringing in limited, controlled doses, mostly through his own visual work, including the short documentary Boomin' that accompanied the casino rollout. His cousin relationship with Kendrick Lamar was confirmed only gradually through lyrics and joint appearances, years after fans had already begun speculating about it. That pattern of Keem revealing personal information at his own pace and on his own terms, rather than through direct interviews, is consistent. It means that when something ambiguous like the BET Awards embrace surfaces, there is no established precedent of him publicly discussing relationships to compare it against. The silence itself becomes part of the story, not because he is hiding something specific, but because he has never established a different kind of transparency. Boyd's public posture is different in texture. She has been open in interviews about her emotional philosophy, telling one publication that her ultimate goal in life is to die free of regret, bitterness, and fear, having lived a life so full that I am proud of every part of it. She talks about human connection as a central theme of her artistry, describing her mission as making music that helps people feel seen and not alone. That kind of stated openness makes a caption like "Some true flirtaholics" read less like a calculated tease and more like an extension of a persona she has already built in public, someone comfortable naming affection, ambiguous or otherwise, without over-explaining it. Her family history explains some of that comfort with openness. Infinity Song began in 2014 as 3 siblings, Victory, Abraham, and Angel Boyd, performing with nothing more than an acoustic guitar on New York street corners and in subway stations. Momo and her brother Israel joined later, once they were old enough, and the 5 of them built a following the slow way, through pop-up sets in Central Park rather than a viral single or a label push. Their parents were musicians themselves, and by every account the household treated performance as a shared family discipline rather than an individual pursuit of fame. Jay-Z's Roc Nation signed the group in 2016, and their television appearances on NBC's Today Show and ABC's The View followed the same pattern that would later define Momo's solo emergence: steady, incremental, built on musicianship rather than spectacle. Momo herself wrote and produced the band's breakout single, Haters Anthem, and later contributed to Sinking Boat and Slow Burn, records that circulated among a devoted but comparatively small fan base for years before Good Flirts introduced her to an audience many times that size overnight. That contrast between a career built slowly inside a family unit and a single feature that reshapes public perception in a matter of weeks is its own kind of story, and it is one documentary coverage of viral moments tends to skip past. The BET Awards clip that circulated online showed a woman with 2 decades of stage experience, not a newcomer discovering fame for the first time. What looked to casual viewers like a debut was, to any